Okay, so we go to the second one then. The second question. And the second question will be testing on the pivot. I think we only did, there is a question that we did that was requiring us. The one that had a lot of data, 6,000 and something. Yeah, we were having some part that we are using the pivot. The pivot. So here we have just a smaller question, but still has elements of using the pivot table, and also generating charts, the pivot charts, generating the pivot charts. And it still falls under the management accounting, under the either break-even or the profit analysis, CVP analysis, where we are analyzing the profits and the cost and other variables pertaining to products that we are dealing with. So the question reads, the following data was provided by a motor vehicle dealer for the month of January 2025. Use it to answer the following questions. We have been given the data where we have the make of the car, the model of the car, the color of the car, the mileage that has been covered by the car, the selling price of the car, and the cost, selling price and the cost of the car. Only that is what we have been provided. And we are required to calculate the total profit earned from each make of the car using the pivot table, So here the reference is a pivot table that we need just to generate the profit, to calculate the profit earned from each make of the car using the pivot table. Number 2, create a pivot chart from Roman 1 above. So you need a chart from Roman 1 above. And Roman 3, using pivot table, what is the average mileage for each model across all makes? So across all makes. So here again, the key is, okay, so we need the model. Yeah, we need the model. Using pivot table, what is the average mileage for each model? Across all make. Then generate pivot chart from Roman 2 above. So here a lot we need again to know how to come up with charts, because it's very difficult to find that you are dealing with Excels. Out of the 5 questions, you will find that you will not miss an element of data visualization. Yeah, you will not miss elements of data visualization. So you need to know how to visualize using these particular charts, how to visualize using the charts. And when you're using the pivot table just requires you to highlight the entire. Either it's mostly the entire, so that now you'll be doing the selection after already you have highlighted the entire. After you have highlighted the entire, so I'll highlight here from the make to the cost, the entire, my entire table that way, that I have already highlighted. And after highlighting the entire table, I will go to insert, and under inserting, you can have recommended pivot table, or you generate it from scratch. Recommended pivot table, or you generate. The best thing is to build it yourself instead of going with what is recommended. The best thing is to build according to the question. You build it from scratch according to the question. So you just go to the pivot table. Don't go to the recommended. Use the pivot table. Just the pivot table. And when I click the pivot table, you will get this particular pop-up. Yeah, this one, that it needs to generate from the range that you have given. So choose where you want the pivot table to be placed, either in a new or the existing. So I'll go with the existing. And the place that I will put my existing is just down here. Is whereby I will put my location to the existing worksheet. Yeah, that way. And I'll put OK. And you'll find that the moment you put that, you will get this builder now. The builder, to build a report, choose a field from the pivot table field. Yeah, you choose to build a report, choose the fields from the pivot table field list, and you have been given here the pivot table fields. Under this end, this is where we have our field. We have our field on this end, our fields on this end, the fields. So is the range is automatic? It's not automatic. It's because it's what I have highlighted. So the range is not automatic. It's what I have highlighted. Remember, the first thing I have highlighted the table. So that means the moment you have highlighted the table, that is the range that will be taken. After highlighting the table, that is the range that will be taken. so that already now we need to build. And whatever we are building, so we have all these variables that we have, and we normally have what here, we have drag fields between areas below. We have this one is for filtering, the column, the rows, and the values, the rows and the values. So our rows, we need our row, calculate the total profit. Under the value, we need the profit. Under the value, we need the profit. Under the value, we need the profit here. But remember, you cannot get the profit directly. I will show you how to get the profit here. So calculate the total profit and from each make. So the key thing, we need each make here, each make. So I'll click the make. And when I click the make here, automatically it will go to the row. When I click the make, it will go to the row. And already we have started building our pivot. So these are the row labels. So these are summary of the make that we have. The summary of the make that we have. And out of these, we need the profit. So to get the profit, we need to take the selling price minus cost. Here, if we are to create a column for profit, already we know how much it is costing us to buy one motor vehicle and how much we are selling. So the difference between the selling price and the cost, this is the total cost of acquiring that particular motor vehicle. It will give us the profit. So here we'll select the selling, and you'll find that this selling will go automatically to the values, and I will take the cost. And again, the cost will go to the values. It will go to the values. It will go to the values. And the other thing we need is to create another now. Remember, you're under the pivot table. We need to create a column that is not there, the one that will calculate the profit. We need to calculate a column that will calculate the profit that we are getting from each make of the car, from each make of the car. And to create a column for the profit, and at the top, under what you're calling the pivot table analysis, pivot table analyzer, we have what we call the field items, fields, items, and sets here. The field items and sets here. This is what we use to create another column. I will click this for the field items, and I need to calculate what we call the calculated item. Yeah, calculated item. This is what we need to calculate. Calculate the profit that will be calculated under the fields item. Go to calculated item that way. And when you go to calculated item, we need the name and the formula. So the name is a profit. The name is a profit that we need. The name is a profit. And the formula, how do we get this? And we have said to get the profit, we are taking the selling price. I double click and we minus the cost. I double click, or you just click and you insert the field. Click and you insert the field. So we are taking the selling price and we minus the cost. Selling price minus the cost. So this is a formula that we are inserting. Selling price minus the cost. And when you take selling price minus the cost, and I will add this, it will already have created. So reference to multiple item per field cannot be included. Okay, so I think there's something it has included here. Okay, so here is selling price. This one is including an apostrophe. Maybe that is the reason. I'll add this. Okay, so there must be a reason that. Okay, let me see that without that spacing. Okay, still it has a problem. Okay, so let me repeat that. Just close this. So I need to create the profit one. So I'll come here and so calculated field, calculated item. Let me see whether there is a difference between the two. So either calculated item or calculated field. So this one I've said is a profit. Just need to see the difference between the two. And the formula for this field, we are saying is the selling price that we are having. So you just need to see when I click this and I insert the field, still it will be the same. And I minus the cost and I insert that. Okay. So that way, and I'll put add this because I need to have this field. Yeah, I think that one already. Yeah, it was supposed to be the field because you can see now the profit has been added. The field, not the item. So it was adding the field. So profit has been added, and I'll put OK. And by doing that already, the profit has been highlighted. It has been included in the values, and it has been included in our pivot chart. It has been included in our pivot chart, the profit as per each and every make. So the key thing, the first one that was not responding under the field item. So you can either calculate the item or the field. Whatever we are dealing with was not items. Items are the label, the rows, the items that already we have been given. But here, what we are having is the field. When you look at these pivot table fields, it is a field that we are dealing with. Yeah, it was not items, but the field. So in this case, you will take the calculated field, and you put the formula for the field that you need. You put the formula for the field that you need. And our field that we needed to have is the field of the profit, the field of the profit. And the field of the profit, already we have that. So this is the sum of the profit that we have calculated, and that is our calculate the total profit and from each make of the car. So the total, so for each make, there's a profits for each make. Yeah, notwithstanding the brand or the models, but each make, those are the profits. And the grand total of the profit that we had is 11,958. 11,958 as our total for that. Then after getting that, so remember this was our Roman one. This was our Roman 1. Yeah, our Roman 1, that is Roman 1. Roman 2, we need to get the chart for that. Yeah, the pivot chart. We need to get the pivot chart for this one, the pivot chart for this one. You just need to click this. And when you click this already, you'll go either to chart here, yeah, under the pivot table analyze, When you just click this, pivot table analyze at this far end, you'll get the pivot chart and the recommended. Yeah, the pivot chart and the recommended. So you can either pick the recommended here, the recommended charts. So these are recommended pivot tables. We don't need the recommended pivot tables. We need the chart. We need the charts here. So you can either deal with this one. Yeah. So this one now shows the three of them. Yeah, under this one, you'll be able to get the three, or if you need the line, but the column is good. We said column mostly is used for comparison. Whenever you're dealing with comparison, comparing items, so the best you can use is this one. Can easily be able to give you the comparison of items. So here, whatever we are comparing with is the sum of the selling price, the sum of the cost, and the sum of the profit per item. Yeah. So Chevrolet, Dodge, Ford, Honda, Nissan, and Toyota. So these are our make. And the profit that we made from that, this cost that we incurred, and even the sum of the selling price, the sum of the selling price that was incurred in that, sum of the selling price that was incurred on that. And that is the first part and the second part. The key thing is to generate. Once you have generated the pivot table, and remember pivot table we said is a summary. Remember now it have summarized. It have summarized this data. Yeah, you can see we have a lot of entries, but it has been able to summarize them, summing the similar items together, and we have come up with those particular models or the make that we have, because it has been summarized based on make. You can summarize it. Okay, so we continue. We continue. So we continue and look at the second part of that question, the second part of the question. And you'll find that for the second, that was the first that you have already generated the pivot table, and we have already generated our chart from that table. We have generated our chart from the table. And the second question is the third, using pivot table, what is the average mileage for each model across all makes? For each model across all makes. So here we need this, and I will copy this to make it easy. Copy that, come with it here and paste it. Come with it here and you paste it. Yeah, the same table that we had it here. So we have pasted, and the reason we are pasting it here so that you can be able to edit from this point. When I click this, you will not start from scratch highlighting. When you click this, already the fields will appear. The key thing that we are interested with is the field. We are interested with the field so that you can edit now the field according to the question. And in this question, we are told, using a pivot table, what is the average mileage for each model across all makes? So the key thing that we need is a model. We need the model, we don't need the make. So we eliminate the make and we click the model. We eliminate the make and we click the model. We eliminate the make and we click the model. So we are interested with the model now, not the make. And apart from the model, we are not interested with the selling price. Neither are we interested with the cost. Neither are we interested with the profit. So we are not interested with all that. So you can see when I eliminate them, we are only remaining with the model. We are only remaining with the model. But what we need is the average mileage. What we need is the average mileage here. We need the average mileage. So the moment I click on the mileage, you will find that it has brought the mileage, but what we have is the sum. What we have is the sum of the mileage. We have the sum of the mileage and not the average mileage. But we are interested in getting the average, not the sum. Getting the average and not the sum of the, not the sum. So we are interested on the average and not the sum. And now we just need to edit again. All these when you're using the pivot is only to deal with editing, yeah, and changing to suit what you need. You edit so that it can suit what you need. So in this case, we need to change it from the sum to average. Sum to average. And the way we do change that, you come here under the pivot table field, under the values, we have the sum. Under the values, we have the sum. We will right click on the sum, right click on the sum, or here, yeah, even if I'm not right clicking on these, and under where we have the sum, we have this arrow. Yeah, you'll just click this arrow under the sum, and you have all these. Whether you need to move to report filter, move to row, move to column, remove the field, or value field setting. So we're interested with these, the value field setting. I will open that, and you will find that here the custom name, it is under sum. Custom name is under sum of mileage. But now we don't need the sum. We don't need to count. When you click count, it will tell you, it will bring you to count. When you click average, it will tell you average of the mileage. So this is what we need. We don't need the max, we don't need the mean, we don't need the product. We just need the average. Yeah, average, average of the mileage. So you'll click the average and you'll put OK. You'll put OK, and you'll find that here it has changed to average, and here it has changed to average of the mileage. So it has given you the average for each particular model. For each particular model of the car, we have the average and we have the grand total. Yeah, grand total is the grand average, the grand total or the grand average for all the models, that we have been given. All the models, those are the averages that we have. All the models, those are the averages that we have. So I've said the key thing is just to change under these. So even under this, you can so you can remove, you can change, you can do the field settings and so on. Here is the key whereby you need to change, and you are looking at it under the value field, so that you change, so that it will suit your needs according to the question. And we have changed that to show that what we really need is the sum, the average. What we really need is to show the average for that particular period, the average for that particular period. And that is it for Roman 3. That is the pivot table that we needed to analyze the average, that we had, And the last one on that is just to generate the chart. Generate the pivot chart from Roman 3 above. Generate the pivot chart from Roman 3 above. And our chart is just from this. Chart from this. And you have said you just click this table, the chart, go to pivot table analyze. And under pivot table analyze, we shall have the pivot chart. And we can just use the clustered, the column that we have, here. So these averages, the average of mileage is what we are having, the average of mileage, and is the total average for each one of them, the average that we have for each one of them. The average that we have for each one of them. And you can easily now be able to do a comparison of those averages. Comparison for those averages that you're having. And on this side, we have the model. So it has given you the name here, the model. The model that you have. And on this other side is the averages that we are having, And that is it. So under here, instead of just writing this as the header, you can just change this to average of mileage. 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 That is what we have as our header. Average of mileage as our header. That way. And the other one was having what? This one was a lot of items, and you can even decide to eliminate all these. You still have that option, but this was for the sum of profit, but not necessarily the sum of profit, because it has encompassed all the three of them, the selling price, the cost, and the profit. So it did not show only one. So you are comparing the three, the price, the cost, and the profit, the three of them at a go, the three of them at a glance, or the three of them at a go, they were being compared there. And that is how you generate, or you deal with the pivot, There is a question again on that. There is a question on that area. Question on that. Okay. So that for today, only those two. So tomorrow we shall have another class. No, ideally we don't have a class on Tuesday, but the main reason we shall have a class tomorrow so that we can complete, or we can be able to finalize on Wednesday. At least you have time for reviewing. You have time for reviewing and for either doing consultation, but have time for that. So by Wednesday, God willing, we should be able to finalize that. So tomorrow we shall cover the other two parts that are remaining. I had already shared a file for taxation. We may not do all, but I'll do selected on that, on taxation, and select on audit. Select on audit, and maybe go through another paper for theory, just briefly. Depending on the timelines that we shall be having between tomorrow and the other day. But I believe we are moving on well, and you are still preparing. Next week, Friday, that time you will be ready for the paper. Just go through whatever you have gone through, and this time practice on your speed. Your speed. Grasp those details, that the concepts, that when you get that particular concept, it will enable you to tackle the question. It will enable you to tackle the question. Then the other thing you need to know, especially whenever you are dealing with Excel, keep on saving your work. Yeah, keep on saving. Control S, Control S, Control S. Whenever you are continuing to do your work, anything can happen. Yeah, because you are using your machines. Yeah, you are using your machines. Maybe your machine may be showing overnight you have already charged it, and during the exam center or during the examination, you find that the power is off. You have not charged, and whenever the power goes off immediately, if you have not saved, even if we have what we call the auto recovery, it may not maybe recover everything. You may start panicking, and already you have done your work. So keep on saving. Control save. Yeah, after you have done up to a particular point, control save. That one's just a shortcut to make sure that your work is saved as you move on, especially for the workbook. The other one, you don't have a problem for the first part, 1 and to 20. The moment you mark a question or you select the answer, that one, because it's system build, already it has saved autosave. It has an autosave mode automatically. But whenever now you're dealing with the workbook, you are dealing with it separately. So you need to be saving it so that by the time you are uploading something that already you have saved. Yeah, not uploading a blank workbook that already you downloaded, you thought you have saved, but you ended up not saving. And it is good, the moment you save, before you do the uploading, close that workbook, open it again. Open that workbook to confirm that actually it contains everything that you have done. All the questions that you have done already, their answers are there. Yeah, because you may end up clicking somewhere, instead of saving, you said, no, do you want to save this? No. And already you have done everything. And the moment you say no, there is no way now again you will go back to that. And that's what you're saying. The moment you continue, Control S, and when you're closing the workbook, as long as already you have saved your workbook first, the moment you download it, save it using your number, so that these others is a shortcut. Just Control S. Even when you're closing, it will not have that particular question whether you need to save it, because you have been saving it progressively. Yeah, you have been saving it progressively. So the only thing that you need to do at that particular time is just to close it, open it again, confirm everything is okay, close it, and upload it. And already you know there are those instructions how to save your workbook. And once you save it using your number and the code of the paper, then the reason you're saving for that, once they are uploaded during the time of marking, when they will be downloading them, yeah, they will be counter checking against their number. Yeah, they will be counter checking against their number. So for the prediction, Emily prediction. So he said for FR, or generally for the section of the core area, core area of financial management, financial reporting, and management accounting. So you'll find that for the financial reporting, they may decide to either repeat or ask a question on the group aspect. They have only tested that once. Yeah, the group aspect. And if it is not the group aspect, they can bring a question on forecasting. Yeah, a question on forecasting. That is another key thing that they can decide to test, either on forecasting or either on the group. Yeah, that is just by my narrow view of it. But remember, the two of them are wider. Yeah, so don't just narrow it down. It is good to have, I normally say, just have an idea how to go about the group, have an idea how to go about the forecasting. That is, in case they decide to bring the question on forecasting. Apart from the other areas that already we had said, the published and so on, those are wider areas that still they can decide to test on that. Because if they stay for long without testing, still they can decide that this time they do retesting on that. When it comes to the financial management, the area, any question for NPV and sensitivity, NPV and sensitivity analysis, the what if, yeah, they can decide to combine that, the sensitivity analysis and the NPV, or they can combine, yeah, that is the main, that they can decide to ask that particular area, the project evaluation, because normally it's very hard. You miss a question testing on the project evaluation techniques. be it the payback period, be it the net present value, be it the IRR, NPV, those project evaluation techniques together with the sensitivity of them, because normally NPV or IRR, they can bring that together with NPV or together with the sensitivity analysis. So that one is normally compatible. It's normally compatible on that one. For management accounting, mostly the regression. Yeah, they can decide still to test on regression if they are not testing on break-even point. Remember, for the variance, still is another area that they can still decide to bring on. Yeah, so management accounting is not that wide as compared to the other two. So it is somehow skewed. Yeah, the net that they are selecting from. If it's not break-even point, then it is variance. If it is not variance and budget, remember variance and budget goes hand in hand, then they go with the regression. They go with the regression. So for financial management, the amortization, that one they have asked severally. Yeah, they have asked that several times. So they maybe think, but mostly they may not. So remember, even forecasting is part of financial management. They may either decide to ask forecasting in financial accounting or forecasting in the financial management. And when you talk about forecasting, is whereby you're having the growth from year one, from year two, and so on. Yeah, year one, year two, and so on. You may be having that. You may be having that as a part that they can decide to test on that area. When it comes to auditing, auditing, they have been having one key area, the one for trial balances, of which unless of the latest, whereby they have been deviating a little bit, but that is the key that they have been asking or they have been testing. The trial balance, the initial, the adjustments, just to know how you prepare the trial balance. And of late, they have been testing on the formulas. The formulas, the one for what if, they have been testing the one for VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP. But if you go to the norm, what they have been testing is the one for preparing the original and the adjustments and the final items for statement of profit or loss and the final items for statement of financial position. They may decide to maintain the status quo on that particular area. For the taxation, they have ideally been, the last one they tested on company, taxation of company. Partnership, they have tested it. VAT, they have tested it. Capital allowance, they have tested it. What they have noticed is that the employment income, they are yet to test. So they can either decide to test the employment or still to retest the partnership. Because the partnership, they have only tested it once. They can decide to retest the employment, test the employment for the first time, or retest the partnership form of business. And if it is not, and the best thing, when they retest the partnership, they can combine. When you are testing such a question, it can incorporate the aspect of capital allowances. So instead of testing the capital allowances as standalone, so they can decide to test the partnership and combine it with the other aspects. So test the company, mostly they tested it in the last sitting. So they may not wish to retest that. But for the partnership and employment, those two, and partnership, they encompass with other items, especially other incomes, and they include the capital allowances in all those other items. That one you may find it as an area of key interest that they may wish to decide to test. So, but I normally say for you to be safe, cut across everything you have an idea. Everything you have an idea. So that in every aspect, whatever they decide, because the mind of the examiner sometimes is tricky to learn or to be able to study it, whatever that you may be thinking they will not bring, you find that that is an area that they are testing. So for you now, at least just cover the wider part, but some areas emphasize, some areas put more emphasis, the area that you feel you are weaker in. And remember the key thing, we normally have, you just learn to get this particular knowledge. Normally don't just do it for the purpose of exam. When you're doing it for the purpose of exam, you will skew your understanding only to a particular area, that if they don't bring that particular area, then you end up missing. But when you get it generally across board, that every point that they can bring already you know. And remember, they say the way we said, whenever they are marking, they will go for the entries. Yeah, as long as you have captured your entries, be it in cash flow, be it in financial accounting, be it in cash budget, any aspect, the correct entries that are there, then they will award that. Those entries are the ones that will get the marks, not necessarily whether you have balanced, whether you have gotten the right answer. No. And because of the limitation of time, you need to work smart during the examination so that to make sure across board from part 1 to the last part 3, you have tackled, even if not conclusively, each and every aspect. You have gotten your marks along the way. So that's all for today. So we meet tomorrow. So that we can continue. And have a good night. Mm-hmm.